So today, obviously, I do got precepts and stuff and whatnot, but I would like for today to be a conversation. So the purpose of the Young Men's Ministry, which went over last week with Elder, or not last week, but the last class with Elder Hannah, is to give the young men some guidance, information, and instructions on how to be righteous men of the Most High. Okay? So for today's lesson, if we want to call it that, is going to be instructions of a father. Right? So all of us, we have fathers, we have mothers, we also have older or elder men in the church that we all can learn from. So the question is, are we going to learn from the lessons that are taught to you? So again, it's a lot of brothers in here. So I want to first start off by finding out what wisdom or instructions have your fathers passed on to you? And it can be anything. It can be, like I said, I don't want to give out examples yet, but I want to go around and get a couple of different examples. Give me some wisdom, instruction, parable, anything like that your father has passed on to you that you know that one has either helped you, is going to help you, or that you plan on giving that same wisdom and instruction to pass on to your children in the future. Start over here, say your name and who your father is and whatever that wisdom or instruction is.
My name is Jaden.
Stand up. You got to speak a little bit louder so we can make sure it's heard.
My name is Jaden. My dad is Deacon Tupner. He teaches me how to work on cars and things of that nature.
Okay, so he teaches you how to work on cars. All right.
You said a parable or just anything?
It can be anything that you have learned from your father. All right, so you got how to work on cars. All right. Who else? Go ahead. Your name, your father, what'd you learn?
My name is Chase. My dad is Brother Yamashaw, and he taught me that before having a family, you got to make sure you can take care of yourself first.
Great lesson. So before you're able to take care of a family, you have to take care of yourself first. All right, great lesson. Go ahead, young man. Taught you how to fish, right? That's a way to provide, a way to eat. Great lesson. Great lesson. Yes, sir.
My dad told me he showed me how to keep calm and stuff.
Oh, praise. Definitely a great lesson. Got to learn how to stay calm. Stay calm in all situations. So what's he do? He like set your room on fire and tell you not to freak out?
One time it was a fire.
And one time there was a fire?
It was like taking the whole wall. And he just went here. He wasn't scared. Like calm down fire.
Oh, praise.
Fire.
Hey, that's a great lesson. That you can only learn that through experience, right?
Yeah.
All praises. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name is Chance. My brother is the teacher of Rock Bar.
Your brother? Did he say brother?
I said brother.
That's crazy.
I wasn't gonna say nothing.
Hold on. I was like, wait a minute. I'm playing.
And lesson that you taught me is that a man should be able to protect, provide, and lead by example.
I call that the PPL. Protect, provide, and lead by example. I feel like that's something that all men should be able to do. All right. Glad I showed my young brother how to do that. Joking. That's my son, not my brother. You got something?
Y'all got it, huh?
Huh?
I said both of y'all got it today, huh? I said this brother taught a lesson about not letting a child be your friend. A child, hold up now.
My name is Brother Gavin, and my father is Deacon Tupner. He taught me that a man should be able to confess his fault and admit when he's wrong.
Great lesson. Confess your faults. And you said admit when you're wrong, right?
And apologize.
And apologize. All right. Anybody else? All right. So now, typically in a normal setting, when I say normal setting, I'm talking about out there in the congregation. I don't call people out in the congregation, right? But everybody that's in this room right now, you're men growing into young men. Men need to be able to be real with each other. They need to be able to be vocal with each other. There's a sense of a weakness that the world puts out, right? Men should be able to admit when they're wrong. They should be able to apologize. They should be able to confront each other when somebody's doing wrong. So that's why I want this to be a conversation that we can speak directly with each other. So How many? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's about 16 of y'all, right? I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Raise your hand if you did not, and keep it up if you did not just say something right now. So raise your hand if you did not. All right. So keep your hands up. Now, I want you to put your hand, no, let me phrase that. I want you to keep your hand up if you feel like your father has never taught you something. And that's okay. That's okay. Who's your dad? Is your dad, I'm gonna phrase that. Is your dad a part of the congregation? Let me ask that. Okay. So that's separate. That's separate. And we can go into that later. But is there a man in your life? Is there a man that's in your life, and it can be any of us, that has ever taught you something? Have you ever been around men that could have taught you something? Yes? So tell me something that any man has ever taught you. And this is not a shame. That's why I said I wanted us as men, we need to be able to talk about these things. Right? So and not laugh. So let's go ahead. So what's the funny part of what's going on right now?
Because I can't take Kyrie serious. I know he talked to me about his dad. I'm pretty sure his dad taught him stuff. He just raised his hand and said he didn't. He talked to me about his dad.
All right, so we're not even going to talk about just your father. Let's talk about any life lesson that you've learned from any man. Do you think there's anything that you've learned?
It was my brother's dad.
Okay, your brother's dad. What was it?
Keep your head up.
You said, what was it?
Keep your head up.
You said, keep your head up. What does that mean?
Like, even when it's not like things aren't looking in your favor, still persevere.
Great lesson. Great lesson. All right. So the point that I want to make is all of us, regardless of who our parents are, regardless of the life that we live in, there have been times where we had the ability to learn the lessons from great men in our lives, even if they weren't our fathers, even if they weren't our brother, even if they were our uncle or a deacon or somebody else. The real question is, were we attentive? Were we attentive and ready to receive the lesson? Because just walking your daily life and observing men of righteousness, there are lessons that you can learn. But it's up to you whether or not you take the opportunity to learn. Right? So the next part of that question is, I personally wrote these down. Who just wrote any of those down? Raise your hand if you wrote any of those down. You said you did? Did not. Thank you. Look, being honest, right? So, and again, you probably didn't learn those things right now, but that's the purpose. So hopefully that's why I make sure everybody had pen, had paper. The lessons that we're going to go over, I don't say the lessons, the instructions that we're going to learn in the scriptures today, I hope that you take the time to write them down. Write down the scriptures, write down what the lessons are, and hopefully you can go back and meditate on them. Okay? So the reason we're going to go to the Apocrypha, right? So all these are going to come from the Apocrypha. And we're going to be reading from the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus. The first scripture is, we're going to start off with the book of Sirach, chapter 50, and read verse 28 for me, my brother. And this is going to set the premise of today's instruction or today's teaching.
All right, when y'all ready, say con.
Come on, we got a bunch of grown men back here. What y'all say?
Con. Basing y'all what?
Yeah.
That's what y'all sounding like.
50-28.
Yes, sir. Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 50, verse 28.
Page 101.
All right, y'all ready?
Con.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 50, and at verse 28. Blessed is he that shall be exercised in these things, and he that layeth them up in his heart shall become wise.
Come. So it says, blessed is he that what? That exercise these things. What does it mean to exercise? Anybody? Go ahead, just yell it out.
Put it into action.
To put into action. What'd you say?
Perform.
To perform. Same thing, right? So if you're going to exercise something, you have to physically be doing something. So again, if you're learning a lesson from your father or from another man or whatever, it's one thing just to observe them do it. It'd be nothing if my son saw me going to work there every day. If he saw me going to work and he saw that I was a hard worker, does that mean that he's learned what hard work is? No, he just observed me doing it. You have to physically go do it yourself and put into practice and perform the things that you've seen, right? That's what it really means, how you're going to learn these things. But then it says that what? You need to exercise these things. So what are these things, right? So we're going to read all the precepts today are coming from the book of Sirach. I believe it's a great book. Has a lot of deep but yet simple instructions for all of us to follow, right? But I wanted to point out that exercise is an action word. So if we're supposed to exercise these things, then we need to know what actions to perform to bring into realization. All right. So I got a total of about 10 actionable steps or actionable things that we need to perform to be able to make it through this life. Right. So here's the first one that you can write down. Instructions of a father. Instruction number 1. Keep the commandments. Again, instruction number 1 or lesson number 1 is keep the commandments. If I was on my deathbed, these would be the 10 things that I would want to leave with my son, right? Son, above all else, keep the commandments, right? So we're going to see if Sirach or Ecclesiasticus said the same thing. Let's start off in Sirach chapter 1, verse 26 and 27. Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 1, verse 26, verse 27.
All right, we good? All right, this is the book of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 1 and at verse 26. If thou desire wisdom, keep the commandments.
It said if you desire wisdom, right? So wisdom, we understand, one, that's the Holy Spirit, but that's if you desire to be wise. Who in here desires to be wise? Right? We don't want to walk around here not being knowledgeable, not being intelligent, right? Yeah. So if you desire wisdom, the first thing you need to do is what?
Keep the commandments.
Right.
And the Most High shall give her unto thee.
Right.
Verse 27. For the fear of the Most High.
The what?
The fear of the Most High.
Just simply knowing who the Most High is. Is that what it says?
For the fear of the Lord or the Most High is wisdom and instruction.
So it says that first and foremost, we need to fear the Most High. If you're in this room today, if you're part of this church, you probably know who the Most High is. Everybody knows the Most High's name is Ahiah, right? Yes. Everybody knows his son's name is Yeshaya, right? Yes. Everybody knows the Ruach Kodash, right? Yes. How many of you fear the Most High? Thank you. Woo! Everybody raise their hands. All praises. Because again, we understand there's a difference. There's many people in the world that may have the knowledge and understanding of who God is, but do they really fear him? Because if they're fearing him, that means that they're keeping his commandments. Because it says that is the beginning of knowledge. Read that again, 27.
For the fear of the Most High is wisdom and instruction, and faith and meekness are his delight.
All right, sticking with the same premise. Let's go to Sirach chapter 5, reading verse 7. Again, the next precept, Sirach chapter 5, verse 7. This is still under keeping the commandments.
All right, y'all good? All right. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 5, and at verse 7. Make no tarrying to turn to the Most High, and put not off from day to day.
So wait a minute. It says make no tarrying to turn to the Lord. How many people have probably heard people say, it's like, you know what, I'm going to get my life right, but I'm just not ready. You know, I'm going to go to church, but, you know, I'm not ready to go to church yet. I still got some other stuff that I need to tend to. As in some evil that I'm not ready to put down. Has anybody heard people say that before? Yes. Right? It's like, it's not the right time for me to go to church. I need to get my life right before I go to church. That's the saying that people normally say, right? That's not what the scripture says. Right. The scripture says make no tarrying. Like you need to immediately come to the Most High because tomorrow's not promised. What do you look like saying I need to get my life right before I go to church? But then the Most High calls you up tomorrow.
Right.
The time that someone told you that you need to go to church, or the time that somebody told you that you need to get your life right, that's the moment it should start. Continue on.
And put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Most High come forth.
Suddenly, you don't know. The Most High could call us right now. He could call us when we leave this place. He could call us tomorrow. But time and chance happens to all men, so we all have the opportunity. Read.
And in thy security thou shalt be destroyed.
In thy security, right? Because you think that you're safe. You think that you are going home tonight. You think you're going to wake up tomorrow. So that's what it means by your security. You believe that the Most High is going to allow you another second to ponder your thoughts. But you don't know if you have that or not. So we need to turn back to the Most High while we have the opportunity. Because life is a privilege that the Most High gave us. It's not something that is promised. Read.
And perish in the day of vengeance.
Because you don't know when the day of vengeance is coming. Read. I'm sorry, that was it on that. All right, the next precept, Sirach chapter 6, verse 37. Again, Sirach chapter 6, verse 37.
All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 6, and at verse 37. Let thy mind be upon the ordinances of the Most High, and meditate continually in his commandments.
And do what?
And meditate continually in his commandments.
So it says, let thy mind be upon thy ordinances. What are the ordinances? Right, an ordinance is a law, right? So it's let your mind be on it. So that means you should continuously have the Most High's law in your mind. Now does that, and it also says that you need to what? It said meditate continually on his commandments. Now does that mean that he's telling us to walk around saying, you know, the first commandment is it's not saying that. It's not saying that you need to walk around in a trance, but it means that by any thought or any action that you're going to act throughout that day, it should bounce or coordinate with, is this in line with keeping the commandments? If it's not, then that will give you the opportunity to veer off. When you walk out the door, and it's not even when you walk out the door, it's when you wake up in the morning and whatever thought was in your mind, right? It could be anything. Hey, is that in line with the commandments? If it's not, I need to cast away that thought. When you walk out of your bedroom and you walk down the stairs and you see your parents or your siblings, right? And a thought comes into your mind of what to say. You have to think before you speak. Is this thought these words that I'm about to speak, it isn't in line with keeping the commandments? If it's not, then you're not keeping this. Every single action that we perform is going to be judged, and those actions need to be in line with keeping of the commandments. That makes sense? Continue on.
Let thy mind be upon the ordinance of the Most High, and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish thine heart, and give thee wisdom at thine own desire.
Right. Because if we do these things, if the Most High sees that we're continually meditating on his word, continually trying to have our actions line up with keeping his commandments, he'll give us the desires of our heart if they're in line in accordance with his will. But we have to put the Most High in his words and his ordinance first. Okay? All right, so the next lesson. So write this one down. This is lesson number 2, instruction number 2. Work hard. Right? Instruction number 2 is to work hard. We understand that the Most High, that he does not like men to be sluggards, to be lazy. He calls upon men to work. Number 1 was keeping the commandments. Instruction number 1 is keep the commandments. Instruction number 2, work hard. Right? And again, even though all of the precepts today are going to come from the book of Sirach, but we can go to other biblical texts to see the same instructions. But for the sake of this lesson, I'm keeping them all in one book so it's simple. Con? All right, so the first precept is going to come from the book of Sirach, chapter 40. And we're going to read verses 28 and 29. Again, the book of Sirach, chapter 40, verses 28 and 29. You can interject it whenever you want to, if you want.
Con.
All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 40, and at verse 28. My son, lead not a beggar's life.
So, all right, so what's a beggar? Yeah, somebody, go ahead and yell it out. Somebody just asking for a handout, right? Anybody got something different?
You said a beggar or a beggar?
A beggar. You got something different? Yep, somebody sleeping on somebody's couch, right?
Someone who has to rely on another person or another thing.
Bam. So both of those examples falls under that. So if you're continuously in a state asking somebody for some money, if you're sleeping on somebody's couch because you were unable to provide for yourself, that means you're relying on another individual to provide for you, right? That's what it means to be a beggar. Now, we understand, and it's not talking down, we understand there's some times that people fall into hard times. And it's in that instance, it's okay to lean on someone to ask for someone's for help instead of being prideful and struggling in an unnecessary state. So there's a difference. But when you stay in a beggar's life, so it didn't say that it's wrong to beg, it's or to ask for a handout. It's to lead a beggar's life. That means you're continuously in that state. Does everybody understand the difference?
Yes, sir.
All right, continue. Or start it over.
Con. My son, lead not a beggar's life, for better it is to die than to beg. Verse 29. 29. The life of him that dependeth on another man's table is not to be counted for a life. For he polluteth himself with other men's meat. But a wise man will nurtured, will beware thereof.
So it says that the life that dependeth on another man's table is not to be counted for a life, right? I think we kind of addressed this a little bit in one of the questions last week. When does a parent have to kick their child out of the home, right? Anybody remember that question last week?
Yes.
So we understood that a woman or a daughter of Zion, they should be, I don't want to say should, it's understandable, or it was understandable in biblical times, why women stayed with their father until marriage. Why? Because they needed to be, a woman still needed to be taken care of by a man and protected. A male, however, that's a male's job to able to what? To be able to provide for a spouse. And I think somebody else that had said that what? A man needs to be able to care for himself before he cares for somebody else, right? So how can a man prove that he can take care of himself if he's still living at home with his parents? It'd be kind of hard, right? If my son was, and again, I'm just not, my son's in the room, I'm talking about in general. If my son wanted to say, hey, I want to, was still living with me, and then he went to another man and said, hey, I want to marry your daughter. That man would look at you and say, okay, well, can you provide for yourself? He's like, well, yeah, I'm sure I can. I'm still living at home with my dad right now, but I got some money saved up. Well, wait a minute. You haven't proved that you're able to take care of yourself. How can you tell me that you're going to take care of my daughter, but you still living at home? So the purpose of you going out on your own is so that you can start to build for yourself. Okay? That doesn't necessarily have to happen when you're 18, 17, 20, 21. It's going to be different for every individual, but understand the mindset of if you can't take care of yourself, what makes you think you can take care of somebody else? Exactly. Right? So even a child, and when I say a child, I mean a young man that is staying at home and not providing, that's still a beggar's life because you're not having your own. You're relying on your parents, right? Where was that at?
What was that, verse 29?
And it says, for he polluted himself with other men's meat. So that means because you're essentially stealing. Like if you're not bringing nothing to the table, it's polluted meat because it's meat that's stolen. It's food that you didn't contribute to. You just sitting up here just eating up stuff I ain't gonna say this doesn't belong. Well, it doesn't belong to you, right? You need to be able to contribute. You need to be able. A man needs to put his hands to the plow, right? And it says that, but be wise, a man well nurtured will beware thereof. Well nurtured is exactly this. A man that's taught. To nurture means to be taught. And you can be taught by your parents. Again, you can be taught by other elders or men in the church. And you can even be taught certain things by other women in the church, right? Because there's a lot of good knowledge, information, and instruction that we can learn from our mothers. And again, when I'm saying mothers, I mean biological and also elder women in the church that will teach you how to be able to be a great man. So a man that is well nurtured will understand that it's not good to be a beggar. All right. The next precept under the same, still talking about working hard. Let's go to Sirach chapter 7. Sirach chapter 7, verse 15. Again, we're still talking about working hard.
All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 7, and at verse 15. Hate not laborious work, neither husbandry, which the Most High hath ordained.
Hate not laborious work, neither husbandry. What's husbandry? Farming, planting, right? Sowing the seed. Does anybody in here plant or has ever planted, farmed? Is it hard? I can't do it. When I say I can't do it, I mean I don't have the skill set currently to do it. But I would not hate it or see it as something that I should not do.
It's not his calling.
It's definitely not my calling. But the Most High calls me to do it, then I got to do it. Is that? But the point is, because some people, some men, I'll be more blunt, some men outright hate laborious work. You know, somebody give me an example today of a laborious job. Construction. All right. You just gonna say the same thing? So has anybody ever worked construction? So that means that could be building a house, doing anything with hammer and nails. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different types of construction. But there could be somebody that gets offered a job. Say, hey, you know, I need help building this house. I'll pay you. So it means it's a job to come help me build this house. And that person that they're talking to is unemployed. They don't got a job. And they'll say, I don't really have the skill set. I can't do that. You know, I'm more of an office guy. You know, I work better on a computer. Exactly. You okay? That's not your job. They're like, you don't have a job. If you don't got a job and I'm offering you a job, you don't turn it down because that's not comfortable. He's like, when I feel more comfortable in inside. You know, I sweat really easy, so I don't think working in construction is going to be good for me. You know. And I've had this. So I worked at a construction company, and I was the hiring manager. And no lie, this happens a lot of times where men will come in, apply for the job, and they'll say, well, do you have anything in the office? No. Your job is, I need you to stand outside and hold this sign. How long I got to stand? All day, like the whole shift. I think I work better in the office. That's not what this job is. Go ahead, what you got?
Getting paid to hold a sign would be easy work. And when you said can't, like you say, people say they can't do like labor work and stuff like that. My coach always tells me, if you say you can't, you're just too lazy to do it, or you don't have the skills yet. So can't is not a real thing.
Exactly. That's another thing. Can't is not real. So, and I tell people that all the time because I do personal training. So somebody is quick to say, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, why can't you? Does can't mean that you're physically unable to, or does it mean that you have not yet gained the ability to be able to do so, or does it mean that you don't want to? Because if it's one of those other two that you haven't learned the skill or the ability, or that it's difficult, that's not can't. Can't means there's literally something stopping you or preventing you from accomplishing that task. That's what can't means. And we should never, as men, approach anything and say that you can't do it. I had a business meeting with somebody the other day, and you know, she was asking me a whole bunch of different things. But it's like, why did you join the military? Because I joined the Marine Corps. She said, why did you join the military? I said, because somebody told me that I can't. Because that's what I was told. Somebody said, oh, you're too small. You can't be in the military. Somebody said, you're black. You can't go to the military.
That's crazy.
Somebody told me that you can't be a fighter. You know, you're not good enough. I became a fighter
Choking people out.
on a daily. So that can't attitude, that should be a motivator to real men.
Yep.
If somebody tells you that you can't do something, that if anything, that should motivate you to prove them wrong. And you even use that though with wisdom. Don't allow somebody to say, "Oh, you can't. I bet you can't rob this bank." That should not motivate you to go rob a bank. You see what I'm saying? Oh, I bet you can't run away from the cops. Like, no, you don't. It shouldn't motivate you to do something unrighteous, but it should motivate you to give you the drive if it's something that you know the Most High called you to do, or the Most High says that you have the ability to do. Because even the end of verse 7 says that. It says, hate not laborious work, neither husbandry, which the Most High has ordained. So if the Most High called you or gave you the ability to do something, then believe that you can do it and don't hate the work that's going to take for you to get it done.
Okay. And I wanted to add too, being that you guys are growing up to be men of the Most High, like your fathers or most of your fathers are, we should have that attitude of that we can do all things through Christ Yeshua anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So anything, especially when it says about the, let me get here, when it says, which is the Most High have ordained, being that he called us to work in this life from the garden, he called us to work.
Mm-hmm.
We can do all that through the strength of Christ, no matter what it is. That should be our attitude. It should never, like my brother said, and I've had to overcome that in certain situations. It should never be a such thing as that you can't, unless you have a physical limitation, but you can work to try to overcome that physical limitation. So I just wanted to add that.
And it's like I get very, very motivated when I see people with and I'm gonna say so-called limitations or disabilities that find ways to achieve them, right? I watch motivational videos of somebody that is lost both their legs. Their goal was to be a professional runner, but then they got both of their legs blown off. It would be easy to say, hey, well, that person can't run no more, right? They ain't got no legs. But they took that I can't and turned it into motivation. They got prosthetics. Prosthetics means fake legs, little tinks. And they work that much harder, right? Po little tink. I know y'all done probably seen it or heard it. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? They get little metal legs.
You talking about the thing that's like a curve?
Yeah, well, yeah. There's multiple different prosthetic legs. I'm just using an example, right? But they get prosthetic legs. They work that much harder than the next person, and they keep on running. I've seen people that same concept. They lose an arm or they have a deformity on their arm, but then they still become professional bodybuilders, right? So never let even a physical impairment prevent you from doing what it is that the Most High called for you, because if there's a will, there's a way. You might have to work harder to do it, but don't let that hard work, or don't hate that hard work, because it's only going to make you stronger.
Made me think about whenever you had the injuries with your knee.
Yeah.
Came all the way back. You can't tell.
People told me that I would never fight again.
Walk and never fight again. Now look at them.
Because for those of you who don't know, y'all know that I tore both of my patella tendons, and the doctors told me, said, yeah, I don't know, you can't, or you probably won't be able to fight again.
The story about that is crazy.
Right? 3 months later, I was playing basketball. Not well. Not well. I was out there like Tink, and my legs was not bending, and brother was out there, he could attest. I was running with straight legs, falling down and everything. But I just kept pushing. I kept prevailing. And all praise to the Most High that I'm able to do everything that I used to be able to do before. I might not currently be able to do it at the level that I was before, but I didn't let it stop me from attaining what I wanted. Say it again.
I remember when you tore your leg.
Yeah, so the patella tendon, that is the tendon that attaches your kneecap to your thigh. So both of mine ruptured at the exact same time. So my tendon with the or my kneecap rather, that's the little bone right in front of your knee, it shot up my thigh where it was almost at my groin on both legs at the same time. Yeah, so it happened because I went to a trampoline park. Short story, I went to a trampoline park and I jumped so hard that my muscle or my tendon couldn't hold it. Like I jumped that hard. So I didn't fall wrong or anything like that. I just jumped. I used so much force that my tendon couldn't hold the force. It was something like that. It was something like that. I ain't gonna go into the details. It was something like that. I was doing something. All right. All right. The next lesson. So this is lesson number what? 3. Lesson number 3. Keep your manners. Instructions of a father. Lesson number 3. Keep your manners. What does that mean? I'll hold that because you answered before. Go ahead.
Be respectful.
Be respectful. Thank you. All praise. You got something different?
Yeah, keep integrity with your manners.
Keep integrity with your manners. Anybody else?
And know how to use them.
You said they know how to use them? Okay. So keeping your manners, that's a very important thing, right? Again, when I said the instructions of a father, some of these lessons and a lot of these lessons, again, can still be taught by what? By our mothers or our elder women in our lives. A lot of times, keeping your manners is coming from your mom. Has anybody had a mother figure or a mother in your life tell you, but watch your manners, watch your mouth?
It's my dad.
So it's not that these instructions are limited to men. But I would say that's what this lesson is about, teaching y'all young men. All right, so let's go to the book of Sirach, chapter 31, verses 16 through 20. Again, we're coming from the book of Sirach, chapter 31, verses 16 through 20.
All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 31, beginning at verse 16. Eat as it becometh a man those things which are set before thee, and devour not, lest thou be hated.
All right, so pause. So it says, eat as becometh a man, right? So we understand as a man, you got to eat. Man, we got a lot of strong appetites. You know, you need meat and nourishment. When I say, not say just say meat, let me say food. We need to eat and we need food and for nourishment, right? Mm-hmm. So this is, again, probably an example. Like, look, your father or your mother say, look, we finna go over to Mr. Johnson's house, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson's house. You better eat that food. Whatever they put on that plate, you better finish that food. Don't you go over here embarrassing me and not eat this food. Has that ever happened to anybody? Right? So, because why? Because that would be rude to not eat food that was given to you, that was prepared for you. That's rude, right? So that's an example of keeping your manners. Because you don't want to be disrespectful to someone, especially if you're there in your home, if you're in their home or they're doing something nice for you. Now, that doesn't mean eat something unclean, to be very clear. That's why it says eat as becometh. That means it's lawful. But you don't sit there and turn down foods like, they macaroni and cheese be tasting funny.
But what if it is nasty? Like
if it's nasty, you better, look, eat what you can. You better take a bite of it. And when you're full, you're full. I mean, I'm not saying, so don't be a glutton. But if it's nasty, you better keep your manners. Don't be disrespectful. I've eaten many a nasty plates in my day. Why? Because it's the respectful thing to do. All right. Now, don't sit there and make a scene. Like if it's gonna make you throw up or something like that, means it's probably spoiled. All right, that's different. But I'm sure y'all have probably eaten some of your parents' food that didn't taste good. I know some of y'all parents can't cook. I'm one of the parents. That can't cook. I can't cook. But if I'm cooking, you eating this food. Why? Because it's disrespectful not to, right? Yeah. Nobody has sat at the dinner tables. I'm done. And they say, no, you don't finish that plate. That's happened, right? Because you ain't going to disrespect me in my house and not eat my food.
I've had to literally sit at a table for almost 10 hours because I didn't want to eat something. But Until I ate it, I couldn't get up.
Go ahead.
I thought that was good.
From when I was younger, well, to this day I still don't like white food, things that are white. But it came from when I was a kid. I was getting forced to eat the white foods. And one time,
What's a white
What
food?
does
Is
that
it like
mean?
rice?
I was finna ask, what does that
mayonnaise,
mean?
He don't eat ranch. He don't eat nothing that has white. Like, he's not eating.
No, I feel you. I don't eat nothing that's blue.
okay, that's all I got for it.
Yeah, I feel you.
So,
I-
and one time, I was at the table and I was supposed to eat the cucumbers and tomatoes. She used to make us eat salads all the time. And I wasn't feeling it that day. I'm tired of eating these cucumbers. She said, you gonna eat them. So I get them. And I tried to sneak it and throw it in the trash. Then I had to eat it out the trash. So,
Had to do
And
that
that's the
before.
story? Oh my
Yeah.
god. So you don't eat wings with ranch because you had to eat cucumbers out the trash.
no, that's not all I
Oh,
like.
I was like, bro.
So whatever the reason is, so regardless, so like my brother said, he had to sit at the table for 10 hours. You know, you had to eat out the trash. I've had to sit at the table for hours, and I think I've had to eat out the trash before. So the lesson that our parents or our elders were trying to teach us, what was the lesson that they were trying to teach us?
Be respectful.
To be respectful, because regardless, they had to put work into preparing that food, did they not?
Yes.
So it would be disrespectful for you to just blow it off, right? Once you become your get your own, you can eat whatever you want. But until then, you eating what's placed in front of you.
And to add on that, a part of being respectful and having your manners is not being a waster. Especially when you have one that's providing for you. And that was the whole thing why you had to do it, because they look at it as like we're teaching you had to go out and labor for this. And sometimes we didn't understand how hard they had to work just to make sure we got that nasty piece of food, or whatever it was. But, you'll understand when you get there.
Right.
Yeah.
And this go. I mean, we're talking. This is precept is using the example of food, but it's not limited to just that.
Exactly.
Right. Sometimes they can give you a gift, and I'm not talking about for holidays, but I'm just talking about in general. You know that you need a coat, or I'm not even. Let's use another time. You know you need a new pair of shoes. Your parents get you a pair of shoes, but they get you some Skechers,
Some ski bowls.
some ski bows, right? Or some selectors, and there's some knockoff Skechers. So it's even worse than that. You're like, are you going to be? Are you going to look at them and say, what are these? That's like, no. You better mind your manners. Be happy you got some shoes on your feet, right?
That's right.
But again, it would be very common, especially for children that don't keep their manners, children that don't fear who? Fear the Most High, to scorn their parents because of what they got. The lesson that they're teaching you right here is keeping your manners is be happy and thankful for whatever is placed in front of you, because there are others that might not even have that. Continue on to verse 17.
All right. Verse 17. Leave off first for manners' sake, and be not unsatiable, lest thou offend.
Be not unsatiable. That means what? Don't be the person that's not happy or not satisfied with what you have. Be satisfied, be happy and content with what's placed in front of you. Read.
Verse
Because if
18.
not, you'll cause an offense. An offense, we know an offense means a stumbling block. Because you can cause your parents or whomever that is to what? They might get angry at the fact of you're not satisfied. Now their anger can cause them to be spiteful. Now, or angry, which then now causes them to what? To do something sinful because of your ungratitude. Right? Read.
Verse 18. When thou sittest among many, reach not thine hand out first of all.
Look, this is a pet peeve of mine. Look, if you are at a gathering and food is prepared, you better not always be the first person over there to get your hand on some food. Let other people go. You got food at home. And again, you probably have had, I ain't gonna say probably, but if you haven't been the individual that's heard it, you probably heard of this. Look, if you're gonna go stay in such and such house tonight, you better go over there and act like you got some sense. Don't go act over there acting like I ain't never fed you before.
That's the exact word.
Because that's what some of us do. We'll go over to such and such's house. Oh, like you got that pie, or you making that food tonight, and you sitting at the table acting like you ain't never ate before, eating all that you can. That's being gluttonous. That's making a dishonor to your parents.
Right.
Because you're making it seem as if your parents don't feed you at all. And again, and I attest, I've done this before in the past. So it's not like I'm saying some things that I have not done or I have not been guilty of. But when I was a child, I spoke as a child. But when I learned better, I knew better. I did better, right? So the focus is to learn from our fathers, right? Continue on.
You got a question?
Oh,
I was just saying, I don't like when, like, if, say, like, you had something, like some chips or something, I'm not going to be the first one. Like, I don't like when people do that.
good. That's a good thing to not like. That's a pet peeve. If I see my brother with a bag of chips that he didn't offer, I'm not going to be the first person. And he ain't offered them to nobody. He just eating there quietly, eating his chips. I'm not like, hey, bro, can I get some of them chips? Now, if somebody else, you know, if I see him passing out chips to somebody else, then I might come over. You know, but it says, be not the first. All right, continue on.
All right. Verse 19. A very little is sufficient for a man well nurtured, and he fetcheth not his wind short upon his bed.
It doesn't take much, right, to be sustained, to be content. Now, again, we're in this instance, again, it's talking about food, but it should be in all things. If you're well nurtured, you don't need a lot. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of clothes. You don't need a lot of food to be content. Be satisfied with what you have, right? Because it's when you're unsatisfied is when you start becoming a glutton. Is when you start becoming covetous, right? Is when you start becoming jealous or envying because you're not content with what you have. But if you keep your manners and always respectful, you're not going to dive into those other sins. Read.
Verse 20. Sound sleep cometh of moderate eating. He riseth early, and his wits are with him.
So how many people knew this? That I didn't even say what? You raised your hand. I wasn't even done. I didn't even done. You already know what I was gonna say though. That eating, overeating rather, can cause nightmares.
Yeah. Eating the wrong thing too.
Overeating can cause nightmares because
I never heard that. But my mom, she used to just tell me, like, eating after 10 o'clock isn't good for you. Or, like, after a certain time is good. But she never explained why.
so it's being gluttonous. So everybody's heard the itis, right? That's the itis. No, you ain't know what the itis is. So the itis, that's when you're eating to the point where you about to pass out. You sleepy. I ate so much that my stomach is full. That I got to undo my button on my pants, and I'm ready taking a nap. I'm ready to take a nap. That's what we call the itis. That means you were being gluttonous. You were overeating, and it's going to cause pain in your stomach. Go ahead.
Also, we learned in the baptism class too, like they told us about that.
That
Baptism class, you should learn that.
or learn what? Which part?
The one where if you eat too much, you have nightmares.
Right. Go ahead.
The only reason why I know what when you eat too much and you want to take a nap is because I play too much.
It's because what? You got to speak up.
Yeah, you got to speak up a little bit.
You said because you play too much video games.
Yeah, but it's literally in every video.
So wait, what's in the video game? I missed that.
There's this character who's like eats so much that yes, when you pass out and then the person kidnaps them.
Got you.
That's why I feel like it's
Because they put it in video games. Yep. They put a lot of truth in video games. So that's out there. Go ahead.
I learned to not overeat and stuff from training, like not eat like an hour or something before, and I realized how sluggish I would be. Like,
Yep. It doesn't take, because some people say like, oh, well, look, I work out, so I got to eat a lot. I mean, granted, you do need to eat to replenish. So that's an after the fact, not before. But yeah, it still does not take much.
Right.
Did you have something too, bro?
No, I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me because it don't take much for me. I drink some water to get sleepy. I don't know what's going on.
All right, start back over at the beginning of 20.
All right. It's the book of Ecclesiasticus of Sirach 32 and at verse 20.
31.
31 and at verse 20. Sound sleep cometh of moderate eating. He riseth early, and his wits are with him. But the pain of watching and choler and pangs of the belly are with an unsatiable man.
Right. So essentially, if you're eating moderately, it's not. Go ahead. If you're eating moderately, you'll have a good night's sleep. You should. I mean, that's one of the factors, right? We're not saying that every time you overeat, you're gonna have a nightmare. Every time you eat little, that you're gonna sleep well. It's just one of the factors, right? But if you do overeat, typically you have pains and collars in the belly, right? And it's because you're being a glutton or you're unsatisfied.
When it says, when it says wits, what does it mean? And his wits are what?
Your wits is your smarts. You're able to think clearly. So again, when you wake up, because again, you can eat to the point where your mind is so, again, it's like being glutton. You can't think about nothing. And that's why you go to sleep. But then when you go to sleep, when you wake up, you still are like foggy minded. So if you have your wits about you, that means you have your smarts. You're able to think clearly and quickly.
I've never seen that word before.
What wits?
Pain.
Oh, pangs. So it means pain.
Yeah.
But it's like a stabbing pain. All right. The next instruction, write this one down. Next instruction of a father. This is number what?
4.
Number 4. Be careful of the company you keep. Be careful of the company that you keep. I know that we've all heard this one, right? What you hanging out with JoJo and them for? You know JoJo ain't no good, right? Be careful of the company that you keep. Why is that important?
Because the people you're around, it rubs off on you, whether you're conscious of it.
Birds of a feather flock together. If you hang around somebody that's always doing hoodlum type of activities, either A, you're going to end up doing those hoodlum activities, or B, you'll be associated with that. Go ahead, back here first.
You never know what happened. Like they could have did something to somebody and somebody come.
Right.
You end up dead or something like that because you hang around.
Exactly. You can just, again, be guilty by association or just be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because again, if they're involved in something they shouldn't be involved in, you could just easily just get caught up in it just because you're there.
You don't really know everybody's intention, especially how much, like, it doesn't really matter how much you know them, especially around your family.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know people's intentions or what their next move is going to be.
Right. Because it's not saying don't have friends. It's just saying be careful of the company that you keep. We need to learn each other. It says, what's the other precept? Be not hasty to trust a friend or to call everybody a friend, right? You need to make sure that this person is worthy of your company. Does somebody have something over here? All right. So that first precept is coming from the book of Sirach, chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. Oh, I just read it. Again, the book of Sirach, chapter 6, verses 7 and 8. I guess I should probably speed up, huh?
That's why I wasn't try to interject too much. But I was going to bring that precept though. Did you get that? Did you get that last instruction? You giving it to him?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll praise. All right, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 6, and at verse 7. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him.
So it says, if thou get a friend, prove him first. We can't be so quick to call everybody our friend, right? I think I did a lesson on this before, the difference between a friend and an associate. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, my friend wants to come up. Your friend? Who's your friend? The person I stand with at the bus stop. What's their name? I see him. You don't even know this person's name? What do they do? Tell me anything about them. Well, I hang out with them almost all the time. I pass them in the hallway every other day. No, that's not a friend. That's an associate, right? Be not quick to credit them, right? Speak.
Verse 8. For some man is a friend for his own occasion.
That's right, because some people want to be your friend because they know what you can do for them. They might find out that you're you might be friends with a certain girl, and they want to be your friend just because, like, hey, can you get me to hook up with such and such? Or they might know that you work at some store, right? Hey, you know, I'm gonna be their friend because I know if I'm friends with them, I can get a discount, or they might just slide me something on the side. So you have to again be cautious about the company that you keep, because sometimes they're not really your friend with good intentions. They're only your friend so they can use you. Read.
And will not abide in the day of thy trouble.
Because this is how you know that that person's really going to be your friend or not. Is if you get in trouble for doing something, or you get accused even of doing something, if that person still has your back, if they're going to stand by your side when you're in the fire. That's the test of a friend. If they're not really your friend or their associate, they'll let people talk bad about you. They won't assist you when you're in a time of need. That means that person wasn't really your friend. Right? All right, the next precept. Sirach chapter 8, verses 15 through 17. Again, Sirach chapter 8, verses 15 through 17. Mm-hmm.
All right, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 8, and at verse 15. Travel not by the way with a bold fellow, lest he become grievous unto thee. For he will do according to his own will, and thou shalt perish with him through his folly.
So this is just like the example that the other young man gave, right? You can be traveling with somebody or just be friends with somebody, and you know that person's bold. You know that person that you're hanging out with, they'll say anything to anybody. They'll do anything. They just out there bold, just in the world doing whatever. Well, if you know that they're gonna say whatever to somebody else, start trouble with somebody else, what makes you think they won't do it to you? Right? So now you're getting caught up because now you said something that's offended them. Now they turn their anger out towards you, right? And what? You can perish in their folly. That means you can die because of their stupidness. Read.
Verse 16. Strive not with an angry man, and go not with him into a solitary place.
So strive not with the angry man. Look, if this person is angry and upset all the time, this is not the person I'm going to keep company with. I'm not going to argue with you. If you arguing all the time, if you're always contentious, I'm just not going to be around you. I'm not going to argue and debate with you. I'm just going to not be around you. Right? And it says, go not with them into a solitary place. That means, if this person is angry or fighting all the time, why am I going to be alone with you? Like, no, I'm good. Read.
For blood is as nothing in his sight.
Because we have some people that are like that. They don't care. No, I ain't gonna say that we have some people. Hopefully y'all haven't been around that. But, us that we've been around for a while, there are people that don't care about killing somebody. Like, they'll just do it in a heartbeat. Blood is nothing to them. That is definitely not the type of individual that you want to be around or be associated with. Oh, yeah, I just shot up such and such. I just got into a fight and knocked out such and such. And just talk about it casually, like it's okay and cool and comfortable. Right. That's not a cool, comfortable place of mindset to be in. Read.
And where there is no help, he will overthrow thee.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 17. Consult not with a fool, for he cannot keep counsel.
All right, I'm gonna move on from that. Let's move again. The same in set of instructions. Sirach chapter 27, verse 7. I got a lot on this one. Sirach chapter 27, verse 7.
All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 27, and at verse 7. Praise no man before thou hearest him speak, for this is the trial of men.
So this is one of the tests. If you want to know if someone's worthy of being a friend, the first test is just listen to how they talk. Just listen to them. If they're talking always about foolishness or things that are of no value, then what are you going to be around them for? Because that's how you learn someone's habits and their traits, is by observing and listening. Right? So you don't need to guide the conversation. Just sit there and watch, listen to what they're talking about. If they're always talking about stupid stuff, that's not the type of person that you want to be around. All right? Sirach chapter 37, verse 12. I'm trying to speed it up just a little bit. I want to make sure we get through all of them. Sirach chapter 37, verse 12.
Right? This is the book of Sirach, chapter 37, and at verse 12. But be continually with a godly man, whom thou knowest to keep the commandments of the Most High.
So it says, but be continually with a godly man, someone that knows to keep the commandments. So we're talking about we don't want to be around, or we would rather choose our company to be around people that what? That know these same instructions that we do. You want to be around somebody that's keeping the commandments. You want to be around somebody that's a hard worker. You want to be around somebody that knows how to keep their manners and be respectful, right? Because they, again, like I said earlier, birds of a feather flock together. If you're around people that are not like this, and I'm sure some people say, well, that's my friend, I'm gonna try to help them. I'm gonna try to make them like me. Well, what if their level of influence is stronger than yours? You don't want to risk that battle. Now, we can pray and hope that you being a light to others will make them flock to you, but that's exactly what it'll be. You won't have to go after and try to be somebody's friend when you're the light. They're going to come to you. So people have that opposite. They feel like, oh, well, I'm such a good person, I'm going to go hang out with bad people so I can make them be righteous. No, you be a light by yourself. And then when you're just around other people and passing that light that's upon you, if the Most High allows them to see that light, they will flock to you. That's how you gain friends in the world, because they'll come to you. Continue.
Whose mind is according to thy mind, and will sorrow with thee if thou shalt miscarry.
All right. Two more on the same concept. Sirach chapter 8, verses 8 through 9. Sirach chapter 8, verses 8 through 9.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 8, and at verse 8. Despise not the discourse of the wise, but acquaint thyself with their proverbs.
So again, we're talking about the company that you keep. So what type of company should we keep right here? What's it saying? The what? The wise. You want to keep company with those that are wise, right? Why? Because you want to acquaint yourself with their words, with their proverbs. So just how I started off the whole thing is, what wise words have you heard? You know, and some of y'all raised your hands and you gave it. That means you're surrounding yourself, or you're around people that are giving you wisdom. If you didn't have that, that means you need to seek out those that are willing to give you wisdom. Read.
For of them thou shalt learn instruction.
Exactly, because that's where you're going to learn the instructions. That's where you're going to learn what you need to get through this life. Read.
And how to serve great men with ease. Verse 9. Miss not the discourse of the elders.
Because some people would do, when they see wise men talking, well, for one, they probably don't even see them as wise. But this is, let me rephrase it this way. You can tell if someone has wisdom when they see a group of wise men speaking. They walk up and they try to be amongst that conversation, not to throw in their 2 cents, but just to listen.
I do it all the
So
time.
also that's hard, because like with my parents, it was like when grown people are talking, walk up.
So say it again.
When grown people are talking, you don't really walk up on them. That's what I was taught.
So you don't interrupt a grown-up's conversation. So you have to kind of gauge, again, because again, you all are learning how to be young men, right? So there's a difference. Everybody, so we have people who are 12, we have people who are 18, 21. If you are 9 years old and grown-ups are talking, yeah, you don't need to be, go do some 9-year-old stuff, go play. When you're 13, 14, 15, 17, and grown-ups are talking, you are wise enough to understand, hey, what are they talking about? Not ask the question, but you can hear what they're talking about. And then in that instant, you can say, okay, I can learn from this, and stay there and be silent. Or you can be like, if they talking about marriage or something that, and again, there's different examples. You have to be able to decide in the instant of whether or not I can learn value from this conversation, or this is above what I need to be hearing.
I'm just being nosy.
And you just being nosy, right? And again, so there's nothing wrong with going up and just listening. Because if it is something that you ain't supposed to be talking and hearing, we'll let you know. Hey, get out of my face. Hopefully, sometimes it might be like that. Or they might say it in a more kinder way, right? But you should be seeking to be around those of wise counsel. I will say, and again, these same instructions of a father, these instructions can be to young men and young women. A lot of the young sisters have this. Or maybe not a lot, but there's a handful. There's a handful of young women that we have here that they cater to being around older women. And when I say older, so adult women. Whenever there's a group of adult women talking, there's a handful of sisters that I can think of that are always amongst that group because they're learning how to be young women. Right? So you young men should be doing the same thing. When you see a group of us older brothers around each other talking, especially at church, at the gathering, I'll say this. I'm not involved in every conversation, but I'm probably about 90% positive that most of the conversations that us men are having amongst each other, you could probably be a part of. Right? And so it's a matter of how you approach the conversation. Now, if me and my brother sitting here say that we were just sitting at this table and just having a conversation and nobody else was here and you walked into this room and we're sitting there like this, you could probably be in that conversation. But now if me and him are standing over here in the corner and talking like this with our backs to everybody, then yes, then you don't walk up on that conversation. So you have to kind of read the room, read the conversation. If it's an open conversation, it's open for everybody. If it's a closed off conversation, it's closed off for everybody. But you should be at that age which you should be trying to learn from the elders. Because you can't, I'm not gonna say that you can't learn from each other, but all y'all trying to learn, right? So you don't need to be learning just from each other. You need to be learning from those that have already been through it.
And ask questions.
Yes.
Ask questions like to be like keeping your manners and whatnot. You know, after they have their conversation and whatnot, whatever you have a question, ask after the fact. Pull him, say if it was your father, ask him later on, pull him to the side and ask, could he explain, you know, whatever you're trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll respect you more for that too.
Much more.
Well, anyone, for that matter, when they're adults, they respect you for the way you handle yourself in certain situations.
So miss not the discourse, right? The conversation. Don't miss it. So that's the scripture is saying it. Don't miss the discourse. Don't miss the conversation. Be a part of it. Continue.
Miss not the discourse of the elders, for they also learn of their fathers, and of them thou shalt learn understanding, and to give answer as need requireth.
And they'll give answer as need requireth, right? All right, next one. Let's give me the book of Sirach, chapter 37, verse 16. Sirach, chapter 37, verse 16.
All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 37, and at verse 16. Let reason go before every enterprise, and counsel before every action.
This is a good one. Again, we're still talking about what? Be careful the company that you keep, right?
Yes.
So you want to let reason. What is reason? Logic. So there should be some logic or some reason behind every enterprise. Everything that you do, there should be a reason for it. I'm sure my son can say that's probably another one of the things I say in my house all the time. There's a reason for everything, right? If you're doing it, and if I ask you why you're doing something, you say, I don't know, I got a problem with that. Because there's a reason that you're doing it. Now, if you don't know why you're doing it, then you shouldn't be doing it. And it says counsel before every action. So you should either A, be getting counsel from others as far as your elders, your parents, or counsel from the Most High. Just how I started with the first lesson was what? In instruction of your father, what was number one?
Keep the commandments.
Keep the commandments, right? And one of the precepts said that what you should meditate continually. That means you should be thinking about every action or every word that you speak. Is it lined up with the words of the Most High? Right? All right, let's move on to the next lesson. Lesson number 5. Watch your mouth. Lesson number 5 is watch your mouth. All right, again, how many people have just heard your parents say that? It might not be in those words, but probably in something along those lines. Watch your mouth, right? All right, let's go to Sirach chapter 19, verses 6 through 10. Again, Sirach chapter 19, verses 6 through 10.
All right, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 19, and at verse 6. He that can rule his tongue shall live without strife, and he that hateth babbling shall have less evil.
So it says, he that rule his tongue shall live without strife. So if you just simply control what you say, you'll have less contentions. You'll have less strife, right? Because sometimes people's comments don't require your response, right? Hate much babbling, right? You should hate people that just be talking too much. Like, such and such just talk too much. Read.
Verse 7. Rehearse not unto another that which is told unto thee, and thou shalt fare never the worse.
So that means that, what does that mean?
If somebody like confesses something to you or tells you something face to face or personally, you shouldn't be telling everybody else.
Exactly. You just because something was said to you, that does not mean you need to run around repeating everything that you heard. Sometimes some things that are said to you is just that. It's just for you. Right? Continue.
Repeat. Come back.
Oh.
Hey. Come back.
Go ahead. Verse 8.
All right. Book of Sirach 19 and at verse 8. Whether it be to friend or foe, talk not of another man's life. Excuse me. Let me read that again. Whether it be to a friend or foe, talk not of other men's lives. And if thou canst without offense, reveal them not.
Hey, did you hear what Jesse did last week?
Nope.
Man, Jesse was over here doing no. Look, we don't need to be talking about other people, right? If it doesn't concern you, if it doesn't concern somebody else, then leave other people's names out your mouth. Again, it doesn't matter whether you're for them or against them. It doesn't matter if it's a friend or an enemy. If it's not somebody else, if it's not their business, it does not require you to go ahead and be talking about other people. Read.
Verse 9. For he heard and observed thee, and when time cometh, he will hate thee. Because
this will make you hated. Because it's going to get out that you're talking about other people, right? And then when it comes back to that person, like, hey, I heard that you told such and such about me. I thought I told you that in confidence. So now that person is your enemy. They hate you because they know that you can't hold water. You always run in your mouth. That is definitely a trait. Or I'll say that's not a trait of a man, right?
Talebearer.
Read. Verse 10.
If thou hast heard a word, let it die with thee, and be bold. It will not burst thee.
So if thou hast heard something, let it die with you. It don't got to go nowhere else but with you. Right? All right. Sirach chapter 5, verses 11 and 12. Sirach chapter 5, verses 11 and 12.
I never peeped that. Be bold there. Just stuck out that time.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody try to force you. Yeah, what was y'all over there talking?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Because that's what some people will do. Some people will try to burst it out of you. They'll see that you were talking to somebody and they're like, hey, what did such and such say?
It's none of your business.
It's none of your business. But they was like, well, come on, just tell me. And people will try to pry it out of you.
Tell them Sirach 11 and 9. Go back and read it on your personal time. All right, well, you said chapter 5.
Chapter 5, verses 11 and 12.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 5, and at verse 11. Be swift to hear, and let thy life be sincere, and with patience give answer.
Again, this is I'm not gonna say this is a pet peeve of mine, but this is something that I try to do. It says, be swift to hear, and with patience give answer. We all need to strive to be more cautious about, again, the words that we say. Again, what's the point of this instruction? Number 5?
So watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth, right? So that means you need to be careful of what you say. So that means you need to take time and think about how you respond before you just open your mouth, right? Continue.
Verse 12. If thou hast understanding, answer thy neighbor. If not, lay thy hand upon thy mouth.
Sometimes it's better for you just to be quiet. Even if somebody's asking you a question, it's better for you to, if you don't have the answer, it's better for you to just lay your hand on your mouth and be like, I don't know. Sometimes you might know the answer. It still might be better for you to be like, I don't know. I got nothing for you. Because again, sometimes it doesn't require you to speak. So part of being a man is learning when to speak and when to be silent. Right? All right, Sirach chapter 4, verse 23. Sirach chapter 4, verse 23.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 4, and at verse 23. And refrain not to speak when there is occasion to do good, and hide not thy wisdom in her beauty.
So this is the exact opposite of the one that we just read. It says refrain not from speaking. That means don't hold your tongue. Why? When there's an occasion to do good. So there's a difference. There's times where we need to be silent. Why? Because it's probably not somebody else's business to hear what you're talking about, or there's no benefit from your speaking. But if there's an occasion to do good, or if it's going to benefit someone from you speaking, that's the time when you should not be silent. That's the time for you to speak. So again, part of being a man is learning when that is. And that is a huge, that alone will separate a wise man from, I'll say, an unwise man. Foolish. Knowing when to speak. What'd you say?
Foolish.
From a foolish man. Because I don't know if I'm gonna have it in here, but a fool knoweth not when to speak. That's another precept, right? All right, last one for this one. No, I'll tell you about it. It's two more. Yeah, Sirach chapter 32, verses 8 through 9. Sirach chapter 32, verses 8 through 9.
All right, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 32, beginning at verse 8. Let thy speech be short, comprehending much in few words. Be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue.
So comprehend much with few words, and let your speech be short. Again, there's some people that will just talk on for days and days and days. Look, I get it. I understand. Your response should be short, right? Because sometimes you can over talk it to the point where the point that you were trying to make, that person lost it. So you should be able to make whatever you have to say make sense in a short amount of time.
Right. I'm working on it. Verse 9. If thou be among great men, make not thyself equal with them. And when ancient men are in place, use not many words.
So again, this is the example of if you're walking amongst the elders. And when I say the elders, I mean anybody that's older than you. You need to be around them to hear their words of wisdom. But your purpose in being around them is not for you to give your 2 cents. Your purpose is to be around them so you can listen and learn. Because again, there are some young men that when they hear people talking, you want to interject all the time. If you don't shut. And that goes for us as well. If we're around our elders, we're not there to give our 2 cents. Even though we're adults, we're still there to listen. Because what do I look like hearing elder and deacon and some other older men talking that have been in this walk or on this earth for 20 years longer than me? And I want to, I went through that same thing. Let me tell you what I learned. They're going to sit there and be quiet because they're respectful. But in the back of their mind, they're thinking like, how does this little, this young buck think he knows more than me? Now, that's not saying that youngers can't teach elders or our elders. That's not what we're saying. But there's a time and place. Because if an elder wants wisdom or information, they'll typically ask your opinion.
Yep.
That's the time for you to speak. Or if you outright know that what they're saying is incorrect, there's a way that you can add your 2 cents or ask questions to bring the edification. But the first thing we need to do is we need to learn how to approach in silence.
Another thing, like in martial arts, I'll see people that come in, they've been in there for a short time to me, and they try to teach somebody teach somebody else. Like, you don't know anything yourself.
It's annoying, right?
Yeah, it's so annoying. You can't. I don't even like to teach people. And I've been there for a while. I'm like, I don't want to ask somebody else.
Yep.
That's a pet peeve.
So that's wisdom. That means you're not being a fool. But in your mind, those people that are trying to talk, you look at them as fools, right?
Yes.
It's exactly what it is. All right. That was it on that. We finished 9?
Yep.
All right, we're gonna move on. Number 6. Number 6. Write this one in big bold letters. Avoid fornication. Number 6. Avoid fornication. Fornication is any type of immoral sexual act. That is what fornication is, right? All right, Sirach chapter 16, verses 1 through 3. Sirach 16, 1 through 3. I know I wrote 13, but it's only 3.
All right. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 16, and at verse 1. Desire, wait a minute, that's the wrong, no, okay, that's right. Desire not a multitude of unprofitable children, neither delight in ungodly sons.
So I'm going to pause right here because some people will say it's a blessing to have children. You know, some people, and not talking about people in our church, but I've heard people say, oh, that person's blessed. They got 9 children. Okay, well, are those 9 children righteous? Are those 9 children keeping the laws? Because if they're not, that was not a blessing. That was a curse. And that's not me. That's the scripture saying. Keep on going.
Verse 2. Though they multiply, rejoice not in them, except the fear of the Most High be with them.
So a parent can't even rejoice in having children if those children don't serve the Most High. Because what profit is it in having a disobedient or ungod-fearing child? You're basically not a child. It's better for you. I don't want to say it's better. Let me rewind that. I don't want to cause an offense. The scripture says that it's unprofitable, and those children are rather unprofitable if they don't fear the Most High. Because what can that parent teach them? What can they pass on to them if they're not fearing the Most High? Because if they're not fearing the Most High, they're not going to fear the parent. That's right. So there's nothing that the father can pass on to them. There's no wisdom that they can give to them. It's only profitable if the father is able to pass on his name, his goodwill, his instruction, his teaching, his inheritance. Right? Read.
Verse 3. Trust not thou in their life, neither respect their multitude. For one that is just is better than 1,000.
So it's better to have one righteous child than to have 1,000 children that don't know the Most High. Read.
And better it is to die without children than to have them that are ungodly.
It's better to die. It's better for a man to die with no heir, with no children at all, than to have children that are ungodly. Now, again, that was what the scripture said. That's not me saying that, but that's showing you the importance of being righteous, fearing the Most High. Because even in the scriptures is showing that to a parent, it's as if you don't have any at all. So, as young men, you have to think of, how do my parents see me? Do my parents see me as a God-fearing child? If they don't see you as a God-fearing child, to them, they could look at you as, they're not even my child. Because you're not fearing the Most High first. So if we want to respect our parents, we have to respect and fear the Most High. We see that? All right, let's go to Sirach chapter 26, verse 19. Sirach chapter 26, verse 19.
All right. Again, the book of Sirach, chapter 26, and at verse 16.
19.
Excuse me, 19. My son, keep the flower of thine age sound, and give not thy strength to strangers.
So, typically, when we hear the term flowers, it's talking about women, right? Does everybody know what it means for a woman to keep her flowers?
Yeah, yeah.
So, what does somebody tell me what it means?
The virginity.
So, her what?
Virginity.
Her virginity, right? So, men, it's the same concept. So, it's saying that what? My son, so we're talking about children, apologize. Clearly, we're talking about the young men right now. My son, keep thy flower of thine age, right? That means, look, don't go spreading your seed. Keep it, right? And give not thy strength. What is thy strength? Thy strength is thy seed to strangers. You don't need to be going out here fornicating. That's what it's basically saying, right? Because you're giving away your strength.
Lose virtue.
You lose your virtue. And there's other scriptures, there's even science that goes out that shows that a man that is wasting his seed is giving away his strength. Science even shows that there's testosterone in what? I don't want to go too deep down this rabbit hole, but you're wasting your testosterone by you just out there wasting your seed. Right? Go ahead.
Is it lawful for a man to, I was thinking, might be kind of, I was thinking, what's the scripture like in the Old Testament where that probably they said, for a man spilled his seed on the
You speak-
sword, and the snake struck him.
Yep, we literally just read it last night. So it was, go ahead.
What's the one that was either in the Testament? I think that was in the Testament of Judah.
It's in the-
Testament of Judah, where yep, it was. I think it was Anon. That was one who was killed for.
Yep.
seed.
So it was two of Judah's sons. Both of them spilled their seed. Just for no reason. I ain't gonna say for no reason. There was a reason behind it. But the premise is it was shown that it was unrighteous for them to spill their seed without purpose. Right? And again, there was a deeper story behind that, but that's what you're referring to. And which is going back into what I'm saying. We shouldn't just be spreading our seed for no reason.
You talking about the story when he was supposed to give, because the first son had died, and they were supposed to give seed
Yep.
to the mayor, correct?
Yep. And his son said, nope, I'm not doing it. Or they chose not to do it.
Should be disobedient.
Right. Which again, that's a whole nother story within itself. But all right, let's keep on going. Sirach chapter 9, verse 8. Sirach chapter 9, verse 8.
All right. Book of Sirach again, chapter 9 and at verse 8. Turn away thine eye from beautiful women, and look not upon another's beauty. For many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman. For herewith love is kindled as a fire.
All right, I'm gonna take a pause. Judah, that's a lot of us. The Judah part don't even matter. They don't even matter at all. Men, turn away thine eye from a beautiful woman. This is the biggest downfall of men, is being caught up in a woman's beauty, being caught up in a woman's physical appearance. The physical appearance of a woman, first and foremost, will fade, will pass. Now, that's not saying that as women get old and wrinkly that you still won't find your wife attractive. Most high willing.
Wrinkly is crazy.
I'm just throwing it out there. I said I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be look. I just so y'all know. Anytime I'm speaking to the young men, I'm gonna be very blunt. I'm gonna speak probably a little bit different than I speak up there. Look, whatever physical attractiveness that you found in your woman, it's a possibility that as they age, that they are going to lose their physical beauty. Now, again, I'm putting an emphasis on their physical beauty because there are other virtues that you should be seeing in your wife that surpass physical beauty. And that is what you should be looking for in a wife. Just same thing when they're looking at you. They might look at you and say, oh, he's a young stud. You know, he got muscles. He's strong. Your strength is going to fade. So if they're only loving you and looking at you because of your muscles and you got a washboard abs, is what happens when you don't have that anymore?
You'll get cheated on.
Is she gonna lose her love for you? So we have to keep that in mind, that our the virtue that we're looking for in our spouse is not a physical beauty. Because looking at that, there's always going to be somebody that you could look at that is physically more attractive than your spouse.
That's what my dad told me. He told me pay attention more to the things they can do at home or their mental over their beauty, because he said the hard truth about it is every time you go out, you might see somebody that looks better. But is their mental the same or better?
Exactly. And the only way you're going to know if somebody's mental is of any value is through time, through spending time with them. So I even have to tell my wife this. It's impossible. It should be impossible for me to love somebody else as much as I love you. Because in order for me to truly love you, I need to know you, who you are as a person. And I don't know anybody as well as I know my wife. I can see the most beautiful woman in the world and on the street. And it's not possible for me to love her as much as I love my wife because I don't know her. And I'm in love with the woman, the virtue that my wife has. Still has physical beauty, but that's not the pinnacle of her beauty. The pinnacle of her beauty is what's on the inside. That makes sense? Continue on. You still at 9, right? Or I'm sorry, 8. No, we finished it, didn't we? We finished it. All right. Sirach chapter 7, verse 19. Sirach chapter 7, verse 19.
It's the book of Sirach again, at chapter 7 and at verse 19. Forego not a wise and good woman, for her grace is above gold.
Forego not a wise and good woman, for her grace is above gold. There have been many men that have passed over good women. I'll say that again. There's been many men that had the opportunity to get a good woman or keep a good woman, but they chose to let her go because they believed that she was not physically attractive enough, right? They were focusing on the wrong thing, because a wise and good woman is more valuable than gold. Because a wise and good and virtuous woman, she will help you more than a woman of physical beauty will. So that's what you need to value. Did you have something? All right, we're going to move on. All right, what number are we at? Instruction number what?
7.
Number 7. Let's recap. Where we at? What was number 1?
Keep the commandments.
Keep the commandments. Instruction number 2.
Work hard.
Work hard. Number 3.
Keep your manners.
Keep your manners. Number 4.
Be careful of the company you keep.
Be careful of the company that you keep. Number 5.
Watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth. Number 6. Avoid fornication. Number 7 is give alms wisely. Give alms wisely. And I'm putting emphasis on wisely, because we should all understand that it's good to give alms, correct? So what is alms? Gifts. It can be gifts. Helping somebody. Like, so that means physically helping people, right? Yep.
Don't like donating or helping somebody, giving somebody a helping hand.
Helping somebody by giving somebody a helping hand.
A form of charity.
Charity, which is, love or help or money, right? So we should do all these things. We should help people. We should be charitable to people. We should give people gifts or money. We should lend a helping hand to others. But we should do this wisely. Not everybody deserves our alms. Not everybody deserves our alms repeatedly. And not everybody deserves our alms all the time. Right? Everything needs to be done, because, again, these are instructions of a father. These are instructions that will help you in life. Because if we just taught you, hey, you need to go out and give alms, you can do that to the point that it's putting you in a hardship, in a bind. Yep. Right? Sometimes you're not able to, because again, we said that a man needs to be able to take care of himself, right?
Yes.
Before he can take care of others. Well, what if you're continuously helping others to the point where that you can't take care of yourself? Then you're not able to help others. All right, let's get this in scripture. Sirach chapter 12, verses 4 through 5.
Right? Sirach again, chapter 12, beginning at verse 4. Give to the godly man, and help not a sinner.
Read it again.
Give to the godly man, and help not a sinner.
So, again, some people may have not read this. Maybe some people have, or they glanced it over. It says, give to the godly man and help not the sinner. Now, are we the judges of everybody? Do we know whether or not every individual is a godly, righteous man, or if everybody's, we know that everybody is a sinner. So, but when it says give not to a sinner, that means that's someone that is in the act of sinning. Like, you know that they're out doing something they ain't supposed to be doing. That's what the scripture is referring to, right? So if I see I'm just going to give an example. If I see a homeless person on the street with a sign begging for money, is it lawful, or is it wise for me to give them money? Let me say it that way. So I'm going to repackage it. If I see a homeless person on the corner with a sign begging for money, is it wise for me to give them money?
No.
So the majority of everybody, is there anybody says that yes, that it is wise to give them money? You say yes, it is wise. You say it depends. I love that answer. I personally love the answer of it depends. And again, I wanted to make sure I use the word, is it wise? I'm not saying is it lawful. I'm not saying is it right or wrong. Is it wise? That means, is it smart to? Because it's definitely good to help people that are in need. But the question is what are they going to do with that money? Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason I said no, that's great. The reason I said no is because isn't there a scripture saying that it's better to teach them rather than to give them money?
Are you referring to, this isn't in the Bible, but well, no, it is. It's talking about the fish. I'd rather teach them how to fish than give them a fish. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but there's a scripture my dad read to me. It was a while ago. I had to ask him when I see him, but it basically says it says a beggar. It's better for you to give them scripture and help them with that stuff, or give them food rather than give them money, because you don't know what they want.
I'm not gonna say that's not scripture, because I don't know, but it sounds like he's combining two scriptures, which is the one that we just read earlier, said that live not a beggar's man's life because it's better for a beggar to die, and combining the one where Christ said it's better to teach a man to fish than to give him a fish. So that's combining two different scriptures. That's, again, unless that's what's coming to my mind. So it is better to teach someone how to take care of themselves instead of just taking care of them. Where were we at? Keep on reading, verse 5. Unless you had something. So again, Sirach chapter 12, verse 5.
Do well unto them that is lowly, but give not to the ungodly. Hold back thy bread, and give it not unto them, unto him.
So wait, the scripture is giving us the answer. Do well to him that is lowly, but give not to the ungodly, and hold back thy bread. That means hold yourself back from giving them food, money, substance. Why?
Lest he overmaster thee thereby. For else thou shalt receive twice as much evil for all the good thou shalt have done unto him.
Because sometimes if that person is ungodly, they will take advantage of what you've given them. They'll take advantage of what you've given them, and then they will try to take more advantage of you. Sometimes there were some people that I helped. I gave them food. They asked for money. I didn't give them money. I said, I'm not giving you no any cash, but I'll take you out to eat. So I took them out to eat. Gave them some words in scripture. Tried to have a little Bible study with them. Wasn't even a week later, saw them on another corner. They recognized me. and they say, "Hey, brother, we just want to know, can we have some more money?" I don't know. They didn't say, "Can we have some more money?" But they said something along the lines of, "What do you have for me today?" Like, so they saw me with the expectation that I was going to feed them again, or with the expectation I was going to give them more money. Well, wait a minute. Didn't you? What did you just learn from? Because I spent a whole hour with them the week before or 2 weeks before, telling them what they should be doing, how they giving them instruction. Right? They didn't take none of it. So now what I look like feeding into your beggar's lifestyle? No, I'm sorry. I'm not feeding you today.
Get a job.
Because that's what they told me the first time. I was like, well, I think it's better for me to be homeless and get a job. What? That was exactly what they told me.
I think it's better for me to walk off and you pay for your bill.
They said, well, the system is rigged, and we shouldn't have to be working for other people. So I feel like it's better for me to work for myself. Well, okay, so what's your business?
But yeah, I was gonna say start a business.
Yeah, he's like, well, I walk around. I plan on I wash people's windows if they let me. That's not a business. You need to get a job. Is there anything stopping you from getting a job? Like, no, I had one, but I quit.
What?
Yeah, no, I'm not. No.
You did this yourself.
Exactly.
You're not getting my help.
So again, this is an example of don't feed into a beggar's lifestyle. Don't help the ungodly. Because a godly man is not afraid to do what? What's number 2?
Work.
Labor's work.
Work hard.
I'm sorry.
Work hard, that means you got to get a job to be able to sustain. Right? All right. Was that it on that?
Yep.
All right. Let's move on to number 8. We're almost done. Number 8. Forgive. One word. Number 8. Forgive. Forgive your parents. Forgive your siblings. Forgive your enemy. Forgive your neighbor. Forgive your brother and sister. You have to learn how to forgive, because if the lack of forgiveness, again, will just lead you in sin or leave you in sin and prevent you from entering the kingdom. So it's a very, very important thing that we all learn how to forgive. All right, let's read the book of Sirach, chapter 28, verses 1 and 2. Sirach 28, verses 1 and 2.
All right. Again, Sirach 28, beginning at verse 1. He that revengeth shall find vengeance from the Most High, and he will you know what? I'm going to read it like I see it. He that revengeth shall find vengeance from the Lord, and he will surely keep his sins in remembrance. Verse 2. Forgive thy neighbor the hurt that he hath done unto thee. So shall thy sins also be forgiven when thou prayest.
So just like I mentioned earlier, all of these instructions or words of wisdom or precepts, whatever you want to call them, they can be found in multiple places in the Bible. I'm just showing you that all of them are also in Sirach. So I just wanted to condense it, right? But we understand that we need to forgive if we want to be forgiven by the Most High. Especially as children, it is very difficult. And again, so I'll speak from personal experience. When I was a child, when I was a teenager, I had a lot of animosity towards my parents because there were things that I didn't understand at that time, right? So back then, I thought I had a valid reason to be angry, right? You didn't do this for me. You did do this to me. You allowed this to happen, right? X, Y, and Z. I had my reasons. And not being able to forgive them allowed a space of hatred or animosity to grow, which did not allow an opportunity or space for us to mend a relationship, right? But that's a damaging thing because, again, tomorrow's not promised. So what if I would have died? What if my mother would have died without the opportunity for us to forgive one another? More so without me the opportunity to forgive my mother, right? That means that when I would have died and I would have been judged for the hatred or the envy, not envy, I would have been judged for the lack of forgiveness that I had towards my mother, regardless of her being right or wrong, because it's not her being right or wrong is not what I was going to be judged on. I was going to be judged on whether I forgave her for what she did regardless. Same thing for y'all. I'm not sitting here and saying that your parents are perfect, whether they're in the church or not. Parents mess up. We're human. But you have to give your parents the opportunity to make mistakes and forgive them, because they're still learning. You're still growing. So we can't hold them accountable to the point of hating them for the things that they do wrong or not doing something that they don't know was right or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That was it on that, right? Yeah. All right, moving on. Number 9. 2 more left. Number 9. Be patient and have faith. Number 9. Be patient and have faith. Patience is a virtue, right? So again, a key lesson that we can learn in life is being patient. It's a very, very valuable trait that a lot of people lack. All right, we're going to read the book of Sirach, chapter 2, verses 1 through 6. Sirach, chapter 2, verses 1 through 6.
All right. It's the book of Sirach, again at chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. My son, if thou come to serve the Most High, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright, and constantly endure, and make not haste in time of trouble. Verse 3. Cleave unto him, and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Verse 4. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. Verse 5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Verse 6. Believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright, and trust in him.
Con. So in short, there's going to be a lot of things and trials and hard times that we all are going to go through, that you all are going to go through in life. And the mistake that a lot of people make is that when hard times come, they panic. So just like, for example, like you said, your father taught you how to be calm, right? This is the same principle. When hard times come, you have to learn how to be calm, be patient in that instance, so that way you know how to properly respond. And sometimes the response is just waiting on the Most High. But you have to have the faith in the Most High that he'll help you in that time in order to get through it. Sometimes you might be able to make it out of a situation on your own, if the Most High gives you the understanding of how to do it. But other times, there might be nothing that you can do. You might just be stuck in that situation, so you have to be calm and patient and wait for the storm to end. And then the Most High will give you a revelation on how to get over it. But it starts with you being calm and with you being patient. All right, the last one. Number 10. Don't fear death. Number 10, instruction of a father. Don't fear death. Because the fear of death is what leads a lot of people to making horrible decisions, right? Because if I know that you are afraid of physically dying, I can just simply scare you by saying, I'm going to kill you. And I can get you to do anything, right? If I know that you're afraid of death, then I can put a gun to your head, or not I, but anybody can put a gun to your head and get you to do anything because you care so much about your life. And I know that putting a gun to your head is an extreme example, but it's simply that. Why do people get the vaccine? Because they're scared to die. So you can get people to do anything if you tempt them, like, oh, if you don't do this, you're gonna die. But we shouldn't fear that. We shouldn't fear death, because we understand that, just like we just spoke earlier, if those that sleep have a greater joy or hope in knowing in the life that's coming afterwards. But let's read it. Sirach chapter 41, verses 2 and 3. Sirach chapter 41, verses 2 and 3. Go ahead.
All right. Sirach chapter 41, again at verse 2. O death, acceptable is thy sentence unto the needy, and unto him whose strength faileth, that is now in the last age, and is vexed with all things. And to him that despaireth and hath lost patience. Read that again. O death, acceptable is thy sentence unto the needy, and unto him whose strength faileth, that is now in the last age, and is vexed with all things. And to him that despaireth and hath lost patience. Verse 3. Fear not the sentence of death. Remember them that have been before thee, and that come after. For this is the sentence of the Lord over all flesh.
So we cannot fear something that we know is going to happen. Mm-hmm. So we shouldn't fear death. What should we fear? The Most High. What'd you say? Judgment. We should not fear death. We should fear judgment, because death is going to happen. That's like saying you fear gravity. Like this, you gonna fall. Or not even saying you're gonna fall. Like if I'm not afraid of something that I know is going to happen, something I know that exists. Now you can be fearful of the pain that would happen if you fail, because that's the judgment. I don't know, that might have been a stupid analogy, but you shouldn't fear something that you know that is going to come. But rather we should fear the judgment, which the only person that controls judgment is the Most High. So we shouldn't be fearful of someone taking your life, because it's not up to them whether that happens or not. And like I said, death is something that's going to happen to all flesh. All right, last precept for this one, Sirach chapter 11, verse 26. Sirach chapter 11, verse 26.
All right. Again, Sirach chapter 11 and at verse 26. For it is an easy thing unto the Most High in the day of death to reward a man according to his ways.
So it says it's an easy thing for the Most High to reward a man in the day of his death. So how can you be rewarded if you're dead? The kingdom. Again, so our reward is not in this life anyway. So it should be nothing for us to fear losing this life because of the life that we're going to receive. Right? So there's no fear in that. All right, so those are what I see that were Sirach's primary instructions to his children. Again, there's multiple, but those are the 10 that I picked out. So let's get to recap. First instruction is what?
Keep the commandments.
Keep the commandments. Number 2,
Work hard.
work hard. Number 3, keep your manners. Number 4,
Be careful of the company you
be careful of the company you keep. Number 5, watch your mouth. Number 6, avoid fornication. Number 7, give alms wisely. Number 8, forgive. Number 9, be patient and have faith. Number 10, don't fear death. All right, so those are the 10 instructions. But I got 2 honorable mentions, and then we'll be done. 2 honorable mentions. First honorable mention, mind your business. Write that one down too. These are honorable mentions. Mind your business. The precept for that one is Sirach chapter 3, verses 21 through 24.
What is it?
That's what I was saying.
We're done. We're done like 4 minutes. Mind your business. Sirach chapter 3, verses 21 through 24. Go ahead, brother.
All right. Again, Sirach chapter 3, verse 21. Seek not out the things that are too hard for thee, neither searcheth the things that are above thy strength. Verse 22. But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence, for it is not needful for thee to see with thine eyes the things that are in secret. Verse 23.
So I'm even on pause on that. So the thing is, some things you're not meant to understand. Some things you're not meant to know. So you don't need to be searching out the answers for everything. Like, oh, that's I don't know that. Let me go look into that, or let me go look into this. If it doesn't pertain to you, then let it go. The thing that you need to know is the commandments. Know that. Know what it takes to get into the kingdom. You don't really need to know anything outside of that. Anything you know outside of that is extra. Read.
Verse 23. Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men understand. Verse 24. For many are deceived by their own vain opinion, and an evil suspicion hath overthrown their judgment.
So, sorry, yeah, that was Sirach chapter 3, verses 21 through 24. So again, be not curious in unnecessary matters. If it's unnecessary, that means it's not worthy of to even be argued about or discussed, right? Again, some people are going to be shown things that are above other people's knowledge and other people's information. You might be shown things that are above other people's knowledge. So there's definitely no point in talking about it because who we were talking to isn't going to get it. Or vice versa. There's other people that might have knowledge and information about things that you are not meant to understand. If it's not necessary, leave it alone. Because by you studying it, you can get lost or deceived in your own opinion. All right. The last honorable mention is don't worry about what they're doing. So this is the last one. Honorable mention of the instructions. Don't worry about what they are doing. So it's very similar to mind your business. Sirach, and this the two precepts for this one is Sirach chapter 9, verses 11 through 12. Sirach chapter 9, verse 11 through 12.
All right, again, Sirach chapter 9 and at verse 11. Envy not the glory of a sinner, for thou knowest not what shall be his end. Verse 12. Delight not in the thing that the ungodly have pleasure in, but remember they shall not go unpunished unto their grave.
So we can't be envious or covetousness. We can't be envious or covetous of what sinners have, right? Because at the end of the day, judgment is going to happen to all men. So we don't know when or how the Most High is going to judge somebody. We don't know when and how he's going to judge us. So we can't be looking at the riches, the wealth, the gloss and the glam of what sinners have, because at the end of the day, the Most High he's going to judge all. So don't worry about what other people have. Last precept to go with that one, Sirach chapter 11, verse 21. Again, this will be the last precept of the day, Sirach chapter 11, verse 21.
All right, book of Sirach chapter 11 and at verse 21. Marvel not at the works of sinners, but trust in the Most High, and abide in thy labor. For it is an easy thing in the sight of the Most High on the sudden to make a poor man rich.
Con. So marvel not, but don't be concerned about the works of the sinners, but rather trust in the Most High and do your work. Work hard. If you just do those things, trusting in the Most High, doing what you're supposed to do, and working hard, the Most High will or can reward you in this earth. So obviously we know that we're looking for the most important reward is the reward of the kingdom, but it's nothing for the Most High to turn a poor man rich here also. So if you put your trust and your faith in him, if he sees fit and if it's in his will and he trusts that you know how to respond, he will pay you accordingly. Right?
There's a scripture, I think it's a proverb that says, wealth gotten by vanity, or here, wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished. So it's no point in working, like doing bad work and selling drugs, scamming, doing stuff that you have no business doing because it's going to all fade away.
Exactly. All this earthly wealth is all going to fade, and especially wealth that's attained unrighteously is normally a quicker demise. Would you have Nasi? None? All right. Anybody got any questions? Say it again. Who is Sirach? So Sirach, his name was his name was Yeshai, or which is no, it wasn't Yeshai. It was Yahweh Shai. So when you go to the book of Sirach in the prologue, it says this is the book of Ecclesiasticus or Sirach. So Sirach was another name for him, but it also says it says Jesus, but we know the translation of that is Yahweh Shai. So this is
Saint Yahweh Shai.
Oh yeah. So it's another Israelite by this name. So it's not Yeshaya. This is a separate Israelite that came after. I'm sorry? What you think? Yes. You can keep the book though. You can keep the notepads. Y'all can keep the notepads.
Just cut.
All right. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and have my brother Gabar Moth pray us out, and then we'll get back into the sanctuary.